Welcome to Later is Greater, Women Over 60 Embracing Life. I'm Stella, your host. I'm so glad that you chose to be here today because we are continuing a conversation around the important subject of self-awareness for authentic living. You know, there's nothing more beautiful in our lives than being true to ourselves, being who we were meant to be. And the older we get, the more precious that life becomes to us. Personal journey with self-awareness happened in my lawyer's office with the first meeting for my divorce proceedings when my lawyer asked me, "How do you want to live?" And I couldn't answer that. In that moment, I realized how profoundly I had neglected myself on every level. And that's why I'm having this conversation today. So let's dive in. We'll begin with what self-awareness is. Let's recap. It's an awareness of your habits, your emotional tendencies, your needs, your desires, strengths, and weaknesses. And when you have a high level of self-awareness, it becomes a very powerful tool because that's what helps you take control and change your life more effectively because you know what makes you tick. You know what your line in the sand is. So the first step would be notice your thoughts. You know, unless you've been meditating for years, your mind is constantly churning through ideas and endlessly providing you commentary in your head. For example, notice your thinking patterns. What are you thinking of when you're feeling nervous, when you're bored, when you're walking down the street? And then notice similar situations that result in similar thought patterns. An example would be when I get to the gym. And I get my clothes on and I go into the gym, my mind is racing. Who's looking at me? What are they thinking? And all of that goes down the rabbit hole. And I stop thinking about that. And instead, I'm grateful that I'm even there. I'm grateful that my body is strong, no matter what shape it looks like, that I can go into the gym and do the resistance training that I do. And I'm grateful for my legs, for my arms, for my back. This is how I've learned to stop that terrible thing of judging myself against everybody else. On the subject of judging, do you judge people in situations? I know I do. Do you spend a lot of time thinking about the past, which no longer exists, or the future, which hasn't even happened yet? Let's try and stay in the present moment. These are two examples. Again, do you expect the worst case scenario? Or do you adopt a let's just see what happens attitude? These are things that come up in our mind, and we need to get control of those thoughts and not let them run away. The second part, notice your feelings. What are you feeling throughout the day? What do you feel when you're eating, when you're driving to work, when you're in bed, when you're waiting in line? And once you've noticed an emotion, question it. What am I feeling? Why do I feel it? And what do I need right now? How do I normally react in this situation? And is that what I want? Just the fact that you've stopped to notice that you have these feelings, no matter what they are, is sufficient. Step 3, understand how you deal with frustration or emotional discomfort. This is a biggie. You know, a huge chunk of our time is spent trying to make ourselves feel better. If you feel slightly uncomfortable or frustrated, then you might spend a tremendous amount of time and energy trying to change the situation or control the situation or control others around you to resolve those negative feelings. That is such a difficult thing to overcome. I know because I have a black belt in codependency. And it has taken me a very long time to get a grip with this whole situation. Do you try to control others? Do you attempt to distract yourself? Is your first instinct to leave the situation, to escape? Or do you surf the internet and eat a big bowl of ice cream? You know, I've done all of those things. And to be honest, I still do them, but I'm aware that I'm doing them. Number 4. Examine your friendships. Oh, that wonderful quote by Jim Rohn that you are the average of the 5 people in your immediate friendships. Where do you find your friends? And are most of your friendships long-term or recent? When your friendships end, what is the common cause? What types of people do you prefer to be friends with? And what types of people do you avoid? There's no judgment here. It's just for you to have a clear and deliberate understanding about your friendships and what they mean to you. Another thing along the line, which would be step 5, is examine your intimate relationships. Do you see a pattern in the type of people that you've been involved with? What are the negative characteristics that they all share? What do you think those people have that appeal to you in the first place? I know I'm a chaser of red flags. One red flag is not enough. I need to see maybe 10 or 20 of them before I say, oh wait, this isn't someone I want to be involved with. But just the awareness that you have, or I have, this tendency is enough to stop me in my tracks. Now, for example, do you have the habit of settling for less than you deserve? Or are you clingy? Do you get jealous easily? Are you focused on fixing someone or rescuing someone? Do you feel hooked in an unhealthy relationship and end up with people who are emotionally unavailable or even abusive? Think about how you might show up for yourself more powerfully in your next relationship. This is an enormous subject with which I have a lot of experience because I was in a very difficult marriage for 25 years, and I was all of these things that I just mentioned. A resource that you will find in the description box below is a book called Boundaries. That book I must have read 6 times during my time in psychotherapy before I even ended my marriage. It's an eye-opener. You will see yourself on those pages if you struggle with any of this. And the good thing is, it shows you how to get out of the crazy cycle. Another point is, have you changed your approach from relationship to relationship, or do you continue to repeat the same mistakes? This falls in line with the same habits. So this is a really big subject, and it's worth your time to examine it very carefully, because the rest of your life is a beautiful part of your life, and you want to make sure that you are deliberately choosing things that give you fulfillment, not keep you hostage. Again, there's that beautiful quote by Mandy Hale, 10 years from now, be sure that you can say you chose your life and you didn't settle for it. That sentence captivated me for a long time. Step 6, keep a journal. If you're not already doing this, this particular episode is a great one, and I'm giving you a download of all these points so you can journal them. There's no better way to learn about yourself than to record your thoughts, your feelings, and your experiences each day. In fact, studies have shown that we don't remember our past very accurately, so recording it while it's still fresh in your mind is extremely helpful. Be sure to include your high points and your low points. Note how well you ate and slept, or you might find other useful information about your personal physical habits. Create a habit of writing in your journal for at least 5 minutes each day. You'll start to notice patterns, and you'll learn a lot about yourself. Not to mention that journaling lowers the volume of anxiety because it forces you to unpack this and put it on paper. And when you look at it, not the same day, when you go back and you look at it, you can see ways that you've improved your life or things that you're still doing. And it's an obvious way for you to self-correct and, again, improve the quality of your life. Number 7 is something that threw me for a loop. And it goes like this. Write your own manifesto. What on earth is this? It blew my mind when I heard this. It was in my writing group when I wrote my book. This was a very important exercise for authors. And writing your own manifesto is thinking about and documenting your views on life, your goals, and your intentions. You might be surprised by what you write. This is a great first step in understanding yourself and your beliefs. You'll need to set aside a little bit of time to think this over. Just write 3 points, or if you're ambitious, 5 points. And these points will change as you go over them because you'll think of other things and you'll think of things that are more important than what you just wrote. But unless you start the writing process, it isn't going to happen. Step 8, make a list of your strengths and weaknesses. How do you know? Are you certain? Avoid jumping to conclusions. You may have always believed that you're a hard worker, but are you? Do you procrastinate? And to whom are you comparing yourself? Provide yourself with proof before you make any decisions on this. For example, I always thought I had a really good control on my nutrition. I have a background in dietetics. It wasn't until I started tracking my food that I realized I was not following what I intended to follow. And that was a very good thing to do. So that's an example. Step 9, what would others say about you? Ooh, this is scary, but consider how your partner, your children, friends, family, coworkers would describe you. What would they suggest that you improve? Ask them and see how accurate you are. Knowing how others perceive you is enlightening, but here's the thing. You're going to find that there are great things about you. It's not all negative. So don't be afraid to ask this question. I did this in social media a long time ago, and I was surprised at some of the positive things that came in as well as the negative things. So that's a really interesting exercise. Number 10, meditate. Hold on. It's not a religious experience. In fact, the Tibetan word for meditation means to become familiar with. And meditation is all about developing a better awareness of the present moment and yourself. It's an ideal activity for enhancing self-awareness. And it also lowers the volume of anxiety because it gives you a small window of time. Start with 5 minutes to just quiet your mind and be in the present moment. There are so many guided meditations on YouTube. I think I might provide a few as well for the purpose of this podcast. I already have one that came with the first one, and I've separated it so that you can have a look at it yourself. It's short. It's about 10 minutes long. If you meditate once a day and then spend the rest of the day paying attention to yourself, to others, and your surroundings, you can develop a higher degree of self-awareness because you're paying attention. Question yourself throughout the day, what am I attempting to achieve? What emotions am I currently feeling and why? What are the people around me feeling? There's a lot of questions that come out when you start doing meditations. And there's nothing wrong. There's no judgment here. Understanding yourself might be the most important part of becoming and living authentically. This is so important, and you deserve to have this time for yourself. I have a YouTube video that accompanies this episode, which goes into a little bit more detail, and I'm offering the same free worksheet as I did in the YouTube video for you here. And in fact, I think I will include an extra one for you in the description box, which talks about increasing self-awareness. It's a good refresher and it will help you take the next step for developing self-awareness. I have a Redbubble shop that has such high quality journals that I have used myself, and I made it with my artwork on the cover. The link is below. The nice thing about Redbubble is that they frequently have 20 to 40% off. So have a look, and there might be something that you find there. And it's all my original artwork, and I've got separate collections, especially the Belladonna collection. I want to thank you so much for being here today. I'm so happy that you stopped by and you took time out of your busy day to listen in. It means a lot to me to encourage women of my generation to step into their power and live a fulfilled life. I'll be waiting for you in the next episode when we'll be taking a closer look at making peace with ourselves after 60 on a personal level. Now I have to read this to you. The legal people told me it's got to be done. This podcast is presented only for education and entertainment purposes. I'm just here talking as a friend that comes alongside with a cup of coffee. I'm not a licensed therapist, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, a professional coach, a psychotherapist, or any other qualified profession. Thank you so much again. Have a beautiful and empowered day.